Oh, no, it's so tricky, all this technology.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm Pamela Marie Edmunds, and I am broadcasting to you from the beautiful Red Rocks of Sedona. This is Love Never Dies radio show this evening, and we have a great guest. We have Mari Cartagenova with us. I hope I pronounced that right. And we're going to have the topic is going to be, hang on, I know it. I know, understanding your psychic senses. Like it just went blank. And I just want to fill in a few things before we go to our guest, that if you're looking for further information in regards to this show, who may be coming up, what the topics may be, all of that information can be found on my website, and that's PamelaMarieEdmunds.com. That's also where you're going to find out about any of my services and classes. I do teach mediumship classes with a couple classes going right now. And Monday nights, I do a nice little simple class. I'll call it simple, but it's quite popular. It's an hour and a half, and it's called Meditation in Message Circle. And besides doing meditation and getting messages, we also have a little chit chat time, because you don't always get together with those people who have like minds and you can share certain experiences that have happened for you. So that's an hour and a half, and that's $10, and that's Monday nights, and that's all on my website. What else would I like to share beforehand? If you have any suggestions of any guests that you'd like to see on this show, or any comments, please reach out to me. You can do that through my website, PamelaMarieEdmunds.com, or go straight to my email address, which slow down, Pamela, which is PamelaEdmunds@earthlink.net. And I just want to let you know that I am a medium myself, as I bring in a lot of people who are also mediums and who also are very knowledgeable in areas regarding the afterlife, death, mediumship, other ways of communication. And there's lots of great info out there. Search for it. Come back to our show at another time. Search for, individuals. I tell you, in my search and finding some great guests who we'll be having coming up. And I'll just share a couple quick before we get talking, real quick here. Next week, I've got an interesting guest. She's from California. Her name is Charlene Spitzer. And we're going to be doing a show called Spirit Loves All of Us. And the reason I was drawn to her, first off, she's a medium. She is a licentiate minister. But one of the things that she does is she works with the term that we would call homeless, but they prefer to be called unhoused individuals. She works with them. She goes out, she brings food, she brings clothes, etc., etc. And Spirit's working with her in the background, helping assist her and making sure that she has certain things ahead of time. Okay. And so it'll be a very interesting show. That's next week. And I want to say she is from San Francisco, an area where there is a lot of people who do not have their own homes. And yes, and welcome to Sarah, who's here. If she can mute herself while we chit-chatting a little bit more. The week after, I will be doing my once a month show, where it's free messages of love from heaven. I will give messages to the individuals who are present from their loved ones. And that is, all of these shows are recorded for people to know and will be archived on my YouTube channel, which is Pamela Marie Edmunds. Terry Daniel, if people don't know who Terry Daniel is, she's authored a number of books. She'll be coming in a couple weeks. And the top subject of her show will be grief as a mystical journey. She is a counselor. She is an interfaith chaplain. She's done all the way up to doctorate degrees in regards to death and dying, grief work. And I want to say too, she's also very knowledgeable in trauma, which sometimes a loss, a death can be very traumatic, and it can be like a trauma. And a fun one that I just added on the list here, and mark your calendars. April 21st, I and a dear friend, June Elaine Evans, we're going to do a show called The Stars Come Out Tonight. Now, both of us have had, can I say, visits, that's the best word, visits from various stars who are now on the other side. And we got the nudge, we're supposed to do something with them and bring them forward and let some of them speak and also share our experience in involving this. And some of the stars, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. I put the list in the other room, but Robin Williams is on the list. Princess Diana is on the list. Mercury, what's his first name? Oh, Freddie Mercury, thank you. He's one. There's a number of interesting ones. So that should be exciting. And then I've got Josie Varga, if people know of her. She's authored a number of great books all about passings and losses, and it's going to be Call from Heaven in regards to some of the stories that people have shared just before they're getting to leave, or after past life, before a near-death experience. The list goes on and on. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. And if you're forgetting the contact information and you want to come join us some other time, the best place to get the information, the meeting ID number, and the passcode, those are always on my website, and they stay the same from week to week. So, okay. So I'm going to slow down just a little bit here and I'm going to let somebody else talk, but I first want to introduce this somebody else. Mari Cartagenova is here tonight. Hi, Mari.
Hi.
Great to see you, sweetheart.
Good to see you too. You look lovely, by the way.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of change. And as I said already, but I want to say it again, I love that color you've got on. And it's just wonderful. So, okay. I'm going to read your bio, sweetheart. All right.
All right.
Then we're going to open it up, and we do have, I just want to say welcome to a few people who have shown up, and that I have muted. I'm looking, making sure people are muted, so that way, you know, sometimes every once in a while the dog might get upset or whatever. Okay, gotcha. Ashley, Megan Ashley, welcome, dear. I've just muted you. Sarah, welcome. You've been muted and you're in the dark, but that's okay if you want to do that. All right, Mari Cartagenova, her bio. Mari Cartagenova, I think I'm saying that right, okay, is a psychic medium, animal communicator, and best-selling author with clients from all over the globe. She specializes in heartfelt messages from both past loved ones and living or past animals. When you sit with Mari, you can really feel the presence of your loved one. Her connections offer specific detail and leave you feeling both at peace and uplifted at the same time. Mari has trained with top mediums from all over the world, including Tony Stockwell, John Holland, Lisa Williams, James Van Prague, Thomas John, and Lauren Rainbow. Now, here's some recent feedback from a session. I call it a testimonial. Say, my dear, feedback, testimonial. Mari, I am still in amazement at your reading. Floored, actually. Your reading has lifted so much pain from my broken heart, and I feel so much unbelievable hope suddenly knowing I can still connect with her. Now I truly believe she is still with me. Thanks to you. What a gift you are. Awesome, Mari. Awesome, sweetie. Mari, gonna start with, how did you get involved in this? Becoming so well known and popular here, and having some great gifts, multiple gifts. How did this all come about?
Well, it's funny, Pamela, because people, you do enough interviews, people ask you those questions. And I always say, like, I was born this way, like just
Ah,
youngest age I can remember. I remember seeing spirit in my room. I would talk to them. I would see angels. And, like I was the weird little kid that would be hugging the trees and talking to them. But, I was like my earliest memories, I'm 5, I'm 6. And so for me, this was just normal. This was just a normal way to be. And it was only as I got older that I realized that not everybody can see spirit, not everybody
right.
can be talking to angels, and that it wasn't just sort of a normal way of being. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, people are going to think I'm weird. And, there's all that judgment and
Yes,
everything.
ma'am.
So I always had it with me, but I kind of, as I grew older, a teenager, a young adult, I sort of like I turned down the volume a little bit, but they would always talk to me and they were always around me. And it's just sort of something I always was. And then just as I got older, I went to college, I got a graduate degree. I worked as the therapist. I'm actually still a licensed therapist to this day, even though I'm not working in that capacity.
Right.
But spirit's message just kept getting stronger. And then, there's a number of different stories, but basically at one point, well, I don't know, it must have been like 15 years ago or something, I had a reading with a medium who was from the UK who happened to be visiting here.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sitting with me and he was doing the reading, bringing in loved ones. And then at one point he just looked at me and he said, well, you're supposed to be doing this work. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I knew that they were talking to me, but it wasn't sort of in my wildest dreams that I would be doing this, because I was a mom and I had my practice, my therapy practice. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, you're supposed to be doing this. So it was sort of from then that I just sort of started to train, and I started to get involved in different groups and really learning and honing, the ability.
Yeah.
And just ever since then, I really feel like it's been meant to be, because when you're doing the right thing, when doors start opening and people contact you, and so it's not a matter of me pushing it, it's just a matter of me obviously putting in the work, but then just people being happy with my readings and people knowing, learning who I am. And so it's really been amazing. So
Yeah, getting the confirmation along the way that you're following the right path.
yeah,
That's huge.
yeah,
That
exactly.
the gut feeling, or like you said, confirmation from other people, and it just keeps flowing. It just keeps flowing. Matter of fact, you and I still haven't met yet, but we're both from I'm going to say Massachusetts, and we've connected with a few some other mutual people who are very fond of working with animals. And it's like, okay, we just got to follow this flow and trust it. And I just want to share, because I know a couple people have met. My dear beloved fur baby is curled up right behind the back of this laptop, Sylvester, and he's looking at me right as I'm talking about us. And he communicates. He has some various ways of communicating, and there's more coming about his story. There's more to come about his story. And welcome back, Megan. Hi. And so I mean, and I know for me, the animals have been around for years, and it's so important that we acknowledge them because of their unconditional love. And
Yeah.
now the tremendous pain and loss that people feel when they lose an animal. It's
Yeah,
huge now. It's become
absolutely.
huge. So tonight, our show is understanding your psychic senses, which actually fits into all these different little categories we were talking about: the psychic work, mediumship. It comes in with the working with the animals too. And it's we were just talking before we started. It kind of, that gut feeling, that intuition is what kind of opens the door for us in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, that's sort of, in some ways, for some people, that's what gets them started, is they start, like, the phone rings and they like, oh, I think that's Mary, and it is Mary. And it's those like, oh, that's so weird. But it goes from that's so weird to, oh, well, I know why this is happening because I'm working with my psychic senses or your
Right,
clay.
right,
Uh,
right, right. You know what term like to use? I like to use nudge. A nudge is it's energetically, it's inside of me. Sometimes it's something being repeated over and over in my head, or it's just that feeling, and it's almost like if I don't act on this, it's going to keep coming. I got to do it. It's like whether I'm feeling comfortable with doing it, I just know I need to, because they're acknowledging that that's the truth. That's the truth. So,
exactly.
what's psychic ability? First off, what is a psychic ability or psychic sense? Let's start from there.
Well, I mean, a lot of people like to refer to the psychic senses as the clairs.
Yep.
Claires, because all of these senses, whether it's clairaudience or clairvoyance, they all start with the word clair, which really means clear. So there may be a few other ones, but I would say the main clairs, there's about 6 clairs.
Yes.
So you have the clairaudience, which is the clear hearing, the clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, the clairsentience, which is the clear feeling, the claircognizance is the clear knowing, and then the two sort of lesser known ones and a little more harder to say would be the clairalience, which is smell, and the clairgustance, which is taste. And so all of these things, if I'm talking about clairaudience or clairvoyance, we're not talking about hearing, say for clairaudience, which is the hearing one. We're not talking about hearing with your actual ears. We're talking about like with your energetic ears. I know that sounds really weird, but it's like you're hearing energetically or you're seeing energetically. So when you go to a reading or you're in a group reading and the medium says, oh, I see your grandfather right next to you. Most of the time, I mean, I can't speak for every medium in the world, but usually they're seeing them energetically. They're not seeing them as a spirit. All of that is possible, and that has happened to me a few times. But most of the time, it's energetic. So all of these things is the feeling, like, if someone says something to you and you just sort of feel like, well, no, that's not going to happen. That is clairsentience. Or claircognizance. It's like a knowing, like you just know in your gut. Someone says, oh yeah, we'll have lunch, next Tuesday. And you just sort of know, like, I know that's not going to happen. Like for whatever reason, you don't know why, but you just have a knowingness. So all of these things, these 6 ways of connecting, is sort of how you connect to the spirit world. And that's sort of like the starting point of if you want to work in mediumship or, in the psychic manner.
Right, right, right. And I want to add something in here because I feel like it does fit with this.
Oh,
Not all psychics are mediums,
yes,
but all mediums are psychic.
that's true.
And where we're talking about the psychic senses, it's important that people understand all of that. There's a difference. And it's and out there in the public eye, there's a lot of, should I say, difference in understanding that.
Yeah.
What other word would I willing to say?
So confusion. I mean, I think
Go ahead.
Yeah, just in general, because even to say that, like sometimes like people will hear things, or I'll even hear things and I'll say, yeah, well, I heard the words, but what does it really mean? It sort of means that everybody's psychic. So everybody here, anyone that's listening has, psychic abilities. And that means like the knowingness or seeing or hearing, like you're able to use those senses. but not necessarily everybody is a medium. I mean, personally, I believe if it's something you really want to do, I believe it can be developed, but not
Exactly.
everybody is like a natural born medium. Not everybody, is seeing spirit, and it's just not part of their, like if you wanted to be, a bodybuilder, you'd go to the gym, you'd cut carbs, and you'd have to really work at it. So I believe anybody can develop it, but it's just a matter of some people are happy working just with their psychic senses and maybe being tarot card readers or just
Mhm.
being psychics and giving information about, your future or about what's going on with your life. But talking to spirit or mediumship, connecting with spirits that have passed is different than just working with the psychic senses. And so I think there's just probably from Hollywood or whatever, a lot of confusion about that.
Yes. Yes. And I noticed, like like I say, I've been doing some research, looking to find some other guests along the way here. And I noticed some people list them as a clairvoyant, self as a clairvoyant.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm thinking to myself, well, do they really realize is that the only way that they're receiving from spirit? Do they realize how that statement looks? My experience, and you can talk about this too here, Mari, and I'll put that out there, is we all develop, we all have the capability to develop all the senses, right?
Absolutely, 100%. And I also agree with what you were saying, Pamela, about people that advertise themselves as clairvoyants or whatever. And I think it's fine, but I think you're really limiting yourself. It's as if you were a chef and you say, I only make eggs, because you want to go to a restaurant, you might not want eggs. So, and I believe that everybody that works in this field, I mean, you may have a sense that you're stronger one, which most people who work, and you probably do, I don't know, you can maybe share what yours is. But everybody uses all of them at one time or another. It may not be that often, but everyone's sort
Right.
of using all these psychic senses to get information. That is what we're talking about, is using the clairs or the psychic senses to get information for, whether you're doing a reading for a psychic reading or a mediumship reading. And yeah, I think that people that just label themselves only as a clairvoyant are kind of selling themselves short because,
Right, right. And another thing, we talk about first impressions. Isn't
yeah,
that's our gut feeling, our intuition, which intuition, I like to use the word intuition a little more often than the word psychic, because unfortunately, you've got the psychic 800 numbers and all this,
I know, I
yeah,
know.
it's kind of put a damper on the term. But when we first meet somebody, follow that feeling, that gut feeling of whether this person is who they are, or you're supposed to be getting to know them more, or what. Follow that. It's huge. It's totally huge.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. And I think it's important that people are sort of in touch with that intuitive side of themselves. Because again, this may not be something that you want to do with your life, or, this isn't necessarily your next career, but just sort of, if you're walking in a place, and this is like a very cliche example, and you feel kind of weird, you have like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't go into this club, or I shouldn't go down the street. Like, listen to that. That's really important. That's
Yes.
like your senses, your God-given or spirit or whatever you want to call it, senses just to warn you. I mean, that's your
Yes.
intuition, which is essentially the same as like your psychic senses. It's your body, it's
Right.
your spirit trying to warn you or give you information about your environment that you may not be able to see with your eyes or necessarily touch with your hands. That's really what these things are. So if I'm doing a reading, like personally for me, my clairvoyance is very strong, which
Okay.
again is the clear seeing. So whenever I'm doing a reading, and anyone that's ever had a reading with me knows, and I always warn everybody, I'm going to be spending the entire reading looking off to my left, because my information comes in on my left side. And so I'm looking at my information, because whatever information spirit is giving me, the way they work with me, it's almost like a movie clip, or they'll drop in a picture of something. So I'm seeing stuff. I'm not seeing stuff with my actual eyes. I'm seeing stuff sort of almost as if you would imagine something in your head. Like if I said, think about a time when you were with your grandmother, you would have a picture form. And so that's the way that I get information from spirit. I get it in the other ways. I'll hear things, I'll feel things, or smell things. I do, but my primary one is the clairvoyance. And so I use that. And I'm sure, Pamela, for you maybe there's one you lean on heavily. Do you want to share that?
Clairsentience was my very first one.
Oh, yeah.
Always loving animals, to pat them, being very fond of velour, some fake fur on my jacket collar, and being able to touch. It's me wanting to touch, but loving to be touched. And so that, to me, I want to say my clairsentience was most prominent. But then others came in on that after. It's like my clairvoyance, as I do, as I know you do too. You do some channeling work. I started hearing things. I also see things. Those are my three main. As far as we were talking about the couple of rare ones, clear, the clear aliens, if I'm which is clear smelling. That's happened to me once in 20 years, and it was early on. And I was doing a reading at a home with somebody in the bedroom type deal, and I started smelling smoke.
Yeah.
And I said, "Do you smell that?" She says, "No." I'm like, "Okay." You know how it works, is like, if you get something, you got to continue with it. And I stopped and thought for a minute, and I said, "Okay, she's got a Native American guide coming in. That's sage I'm smelling." And,
that's cool.
and proceeded on with that. It's the only time that's happened.
Wow.
Only time.
It's going to happen next week now that you're talking about it. It's going to happen.
Yeah. How about you? Have you had a number of times that you've smelled things, like maybe cigars or food or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, like I feel like they almost rotate, and luckily, spirit likes to mix things up a little bit. But I have my clairvoyance, which I see things, but I do smell things. I'll smell perfume or smoke, or like somebody, like, I know this sounds weird, but I was doing a reading last week, and it was with an animal, and I was smelling. I said, I'm smelling like it was a dog, but it wasn't that wet doggy or that kind of stinky doggy smell. It was more of like a sweeter smell. I said, I'm getting a smell from your dog, but it's almost like a sweet kind of smell. And I know that you like smell this around you because this animal had passed. And as it turned out, like the sweet smell that I was picking up was, and believe it or not, it was the breath of their dog. Their dog had really sweet breath. I mean, not like candy, but it just like, it had like, it didn't have that sometimes yucky doggy smell that dogs can have. It had more of a sweeter smell. And this person had that relationship with the dog where they would kind of kiss them on the nose and kind of breathe in their little doggy breath. And so when I connected with that, it was very meaningful to them. So I was smelling that. I'm like, I'm smelling the sweet smell connected with your dog, which didn't make any sense. But yeah, absolutely. And then the tasting is, weird. Sometimes I'll be like, I'm tasting pizza, or, so that does happen. And it's always, it's just important to sort of be attuned to what you're picking up. And that's, working on your mediumship and all that, or your psychic senses, but sort of knowing what's coming in and understanding how to receive what you're getting,
Well, and another thing, and see if you can, if this makes sense to you. We can see things, see, hear, or feel any of the clairs things with our eyes closed.
Yes.
Okay, that's more of an inner. There's a couple terms, and I'm drawing blank to them right this moment. But I think you're understanding where I'm going, and other people are too. The other experience is seeing things externally to you, or experiencing them externally to you, internal and external, and they're still psychic. There's still psychic senses. they're basically psychic, clear audience totally is absent from our physical ears, whether it's internal or external.
Exactly.
Same as you were talking, clairvoyance was prominent for you. It also can come both ways. And it's totally absent from your physical ears.
Yeah.
Your physical eyes. I apologize. I knew what I was saying.
100%. And that's, but as I alluded to earlier there, and I don't know for you, but there are times, and I think, in a lot of mediums lives, that sometimes it's been maybe 2 different occasions, maybe 3 occasions in my life that I physically with my eyes have seen spirit and not energetically. And that's always like, that's like when that happens, we're like, whoa, that's really cool. Because I think it takes a lot of energy for spirit to materialize in that way.
Yes.
And I think that not everybody would necessarily pick that up also. So just like if I'm seeing it, I don't know if like the whole crowd of people would necessarily see it. But for me, and when you've been doing the work for long enough, you realize the difference between seeing it energetically and seeing it like you're seeing it on the landscape, and like, wow, I actually see that there. And then like it's there for a minute and then it's gone. And that's really kind of cool. So,
right.
And I'm not sure about the other ones, but I know for the clairvoyance, it's like it can be external, but I would say 99% of the time it is internal, like you were talking about.
Well, and I think spirit is more capable of accessing us when we get our eyes shut and we're in that internal space.
Yeah.
In comparison to external, because external we can get distracted by physical things. They know that.
Absolutely.
And yeah. So
when I'm working with people, I don't look at them. I mean, I'll look at them, but I'm essentially, and then how this works, or anybody that's ever done any kind of work, or if you've seen a medium, it's almost like you're in, I don't want to scare anybody, but you're in a little bit of a trancey kind of state.
Yes.
You're not 100% gone. Anybody that does trance work, there are times where you feel like you have disappeared. But if you're working just, on the psychic level or even on the mediumship level, because you are sort of touching, that edge of spirit or the edge of God or whatever you want to call it, you are connecting with this energy, this higher power. And so I feel like as part of that, you're almost leaving your human self a little bit. And so you get into that like almost daydreamy kind of state. That's how I explain it to people. Like if you're a kid and you're kind of daydreaming out the window, oh, I wish I could get candy or whatever, and you kind of get all little fuzzy. That's what it's like when I'm working with spirit. And I think a lot of people, because you have to open yourself up to receive that information, does that make sense?
Exactly. And I want to say there's many times in the day that we are in a little bit of an altered state. How about washing dishes with your hands in the water and looking out the window? You just kind of, that water intensifies psychic energies. How about somebody who's watching TV or is on the computer?
Yeah.
You know how difficult it is to pry somebody away from that? They're in an altered state. They're connected to the energy, what they are focused on.
Yeah, exactly.
And the list goes on. Driving in the car, at many places that we've driven by umpteen times, and we're all of a sudden we get in that little altered state. We forget we're going to turn, and we go by it. It's like, oh, okay, how did I miss that? But something else here I feel is important to get in, bring into this. You and I are talking as mediums and are sharing at that level. What about people who have these different psychic senses in their day-to-day life? It's important for them to acknowledge them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's huge for us and for others on a personal level. And I guess what I want to touch on is, I'm sure there's going to be a question here if we don't address it. How can people enhance these abilities?
Exactly. And that's, I'm glad you brought that up because just as you were talking and, I was thinking too, it's like, well, it's good to learn what the psychic senses are, but what do I do with that information?
Exactly.
And I think, there's a lot of ways that you can enhance them, obviously studying and whatever, but what I like to tell people, one of the easiest ways is meditation. And it doesn't have to be, sometimes you say that and it's like, people are afraid that you're meaning you have to sit for half an hour and like a monk or something. No, you don't, it's not that. It's really about getting still within yourself. And, it can be, you can have music on and just sort of get quiet in yourself. You can, use your breath and sort of dropping, it's a matter of dropping down into your body, into your center to try to be able to receive these things more.
Yes.
Because it's not a question of, is this information out there? It's a question of how open are you to receive these messages, whether it's clairaudience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, any of these, this intuition or the psychic senses. So meditation is a great way to do this, and it can be for 5 minutes. People call it like earthing, or basically getting outside, bare feet on the earth, just walking around, being sort of connected to that energy. Because as anybody knows, nature is super healing and super
Yes.
like connective. Or going by the ocean, if you're lucky enough to live by the ocean, that's another thing. So there's lots of different ways that you can, it's a sense of opening the door. Once the door is cracked a little bit, then you're allowing more information in, and the more information you allow in, it's like the wider the door opens. So it's a feedback loop,
Mhm, mhm. And another thing that's coming to mind is have a few buddies, few friends who are also in the same place, and you can maybe share a little bit about, oh gee, did some meditation the other day, and it really helped me so that I was able to go pursue that job, or to do whatever else in their life, because it opens the door psychically, but it's also, I guess you said, and I'm going to use it this way, raising our consciousness, right? And
absolutely.
that's what we need, right?
Yeah, well, especially now. I mean, because it's
Yes.
there's a matter of using these abilities for, to help you in your own life. But I think just in the more global sense of raising the consciousness of the planet and sort of tapping into that bigger, we are more than, this suit here that we're in, the
Yep.
skin
Yep.
suit that we're wearing, and that we are all energetically connected. And there's that bigger universal picture of what this all means, of all be that we are all connected to source energy and what that means, on the planet.
Right. Right. And I need to say here, we got a double-edged sword we're talking about too. Okay?
Yeah.
Because the more sensitive we get and are capable of receiving from these wonderful psychic senses, the more we're capable of picking up negative things that we don't want to pick up, right?
Yes, of course, because, people, always ask me like, are you like this all the time? Like, do you walk around with spirits flying around your head? And, some people say they are, and that's fine. But I mean, for me, when I'm working, I'm working. And when I'm not, I'm not. So when I'm going to the supermarket, I'm not picking up your Aunt Sarah, or, I'm not, that's not what
Right.
I'm going there to get my fruit and vegetables or whatever. So yeah, it's a matter of, once you're open, like I was making the analogy with the door, once the door is open more, it swings both ways. So you can pick up on more intuition and, more clairaudience, clairvoyance, all of these psychic senses, but you can also pick up on, your friend's bad mood, or the dog is upset.
Yes.
Picking up on like negative, not so much like black or dark energy, but just someone's bad mood that can sort of send you to, over the edge, or just sort of picking up other people's gunk that doesn't necessarily belong to you. And that's, I think, what you're talking about.
Well, and that's an important thing to be aware of, especially during these times. There's a lot of people who are in a lot of hurt, pain, loss. Is a list. And sometimes we can't always put a finger on, why am I feeling like this? Well, you're picking it up from somewhere. If it doesn't belong to you, just put that statement out there to be released from you.
100%, absolutely. And the other thing that I've sort of been thinking about recently, and this sort of connects with this, is about picking things up that don't belong to you. There's also ancestral issues, like, and I
Yes.
don't know if this is a little off topic, but
No.
just in terms of, if you have fear, anxiety, guilt, any of this stuff, it doesn't necessarily mean that you own this. This could be ancestral issues that could have been 3 generations ago, could have been 20 generations ago, that have been passed down energetically, or, like in a physical sense of like, oh, your great grandmother was always anxious and then she passed it on to your grandmother and all that kind of stuff. But it's important to notice when you're having those feelings, and like you were saying, Pamela, especially now with all this crazy energy and just the way the world is, that a lot of that isn't even, it's not yours, that it's a stranger's, but it could have just been some generation in your family, many generations back. So even that isn't yours, and trying to distinguish, okay, I'm feeling really anxious right now. Is it because of something happened that, in my own life today or last week or whatever, or is it, ancestral? Is it intergenerational? And I'm able to release that because that doesn't belong to me.
Well, and another point in regards to that is anybody who's wanting to work with these psychic senses, psychic tools, I'll call them, you're going to start you're going to start shifting inside, and you're going to start becoming more light. And there may be a time that you need to reach out to a alternative healer, a shaman, a teacher, someone to help you to clear something.
Yeah.
And how important it is for us to allow ourselves to clear.
100%, absolutely. And I think, the notion of ancestral, emotional, psychological baggage it's sort of new, I think. I mean, I think some people are talking about it. I'm not saying I'm the genius. I'm just saying that it's sort of a new concept in general, that even, it's not even necessarily like, oh, my mom made me feel guilty. It's like, it could be many generations back that you're carrying this stuff. And I agree with you 100%, Pamela, that sometimes you need to have a healing or a clearing or cord cutting to try to get that off of you, because it's like, I feel stuck and I feel yucky and I don't know why, and I can't put my finger on it. It could be connected to that. And
Right.
once you're able to sort of process that, you're going to be able to receive all of this information, these psychic senses, so much easier.
Right. Because as we embrace them, we're raising our vibration. It's the bottom line.
Exactly.
And in order to do that, we need to clear this with grandpa, this over here with dad, whatever, to allow it's I often get visuals, you think of a pipe coming out of a kitchen sink, and it's got stuff that's adhered on the pipe here and here. Well, it's not a clear channel.
Yeah.
It's not a clear channel, and it's about, clearing out that stuff so you can be a clear channel.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. And so people understand it's not even a blame thing. It's not even like,
No, it isn't.
Passed down. It's just sort of like, it happens to all of us because we're all souls here, having a physical experience. And, we do have all this stuff stuck in our pipes, as you were saying, for your metaphor.
Right.
And that's part of our journey, is to be able to find out what it is and to unstick it, so that we can, be clear ourselves and be clear for other people to help them.
And real quick, on another level, many of us have chosen to be here now so we can be a part of this healing, this raising vibration, and working with others.
Absolutely. I mean, the world
needs
light workers. Absolutely. So
it is huge. It is huge. What other topics before we let the couple people who are present with us ask a question or two? What other topics in regards to understanding the psychic senses, the clairs, that we want to share, with who's listening right now or who may listen in the future? Because this will be, for everybody here, this will be posted here on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Pamela Marie Edmunds.
Sure.
So,
Well, I guess one of the things I want to say is that if you're working on this and you're starting to practice, I mean, obviously we mentioned a couple things with meditation and earthing and being near water, all that stuff. But, find a teacher that you resonate with. I mean, I know I teach, Pamela teaches, a lot of people teach. Find
yes.
someone you resonate with, find someone who's got the vibe that you like, and start to work with them, because really getting better at this stuff is really a matter of like doing different exercises and practicing, like my bodybuilder reference earlier, because just like anything else, if you don't work at it, you can't sit on your couch and eat cookies all day and think you're going to look like a swimsuit model. I mean, if
Right.
you do, let me know, because I'd like to know your secret. But
Good, good, good,
usually it doesn't
good,
work that way.
good, Maury.
Yeah, it's a matter of just practicing and finding the person that you connect with that can sort of help lead you through that, or take classes with different teachers and find out who you resonate
Oh,
with.
absolutely. And I know you've got quite a list of teachers that you've been with. And I discovered too, through my learning time, to go to different teachers, because I could get different perspectives that
Yeah.
needed to help me in my growth. So it's extremely important. Back in the day, and I say back years, oh gosh, back when mediumship was first coming around, back in the 1800s, late 1800s, I think it was more, you find a teacher and you stick with it. And it's like, not anymore. No way. We, it's not something you can do quickly overnight as in the way of learning mediumship, but it's like we grow as we shift and change. The teachers we're attracted to change too.
Exactly. That's the statement. When the student is ready, the teacher will come. And
Yes.
everybody knows that, you may have your favorite teachers or whatever, but absolutely explore different teachers, different classes, because you can always get something new out of it. And like you just said, Pamela, that, as you evolve, it's like, oh, maybe I want to connect with this person, and those doors will open. And the other thing I wanted to add, is just be gentle with yourself. Because when people start, they're like, oh, I'm never going to get this. Or, oh, I didn't, or people always say like, we'll do a meditation and we'll start working with an exercise. And they'll say, oh, well, I'm only getting a color. That's good. Like you're not going to start off getting like the Gettysburg Address, you're going to start off with something small. So just be gentle with yourself and know that it takes time to build up, but everybody gets something, even if
Right.
it's time.
And something you've mentioned just here a couple times is meditation. If you at this moment don't have somebody you can be a teacher for you, or you don't have a group you can be a part of, put out some prayer, ask to be guided to one.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, do what you can in the way of meditation, because that's one of the first tools that you're going to need in this development, right?
100%. Yeah, I mean, you can go to YouTube though. If you, it's great to have a circle or a teacher, but YouTube has like a gazillion meditations, like
Oh, it's amazing.
or chanting. Chanting is also really cool. That's something that I, will do, or like just sit with chanting music or chanting in the background. That also
Right.
help to connect. But yeah, check out YouTube, because there's lots of resources there and they're free.
And you know what? I don't know why I want to mention it. Drumming. It's I don't know why I want to mention. I know there's more opportunities in the way of like drumming circles and whatnot. But listening to drumming, it grounds you, but it raises your vibration at the same time.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. So you want to take a few questions from what we have here?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. A hand up when somebody wants to ask a question of Maury, and then we'll unmute you. Come on. And Sarah, if you want to be present so we can see you, or there is also a chat here. Sarah, you'd rather be in the dark. That's okay. That's okay. You can send a message by chat. Question for Maury, anybody? Okay, camera shy from Sarah. All right, that's okay, girl.
No worries. I often like to be in the dark, Sarah, so don't even worry.
Yeah. Okay, Judy. All right, Judy, let's unmute you, dear. Hang on. Are we trying to do it at the same time? Make me back off. Go ahead. All right.
Well, it was more a statement because you were talking about, let me try to get my thoughts when I'm tired. It's just, uh, bringing forward into this lifetime emotions, feelings, maybe fears from ancestors.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned that people were just beginning to study that or talk about that. But I know that was an area that Edgar Casey touched on quite a bit and mentioned some specific examples too. And I remember when my mother was pregnant with me, her father was very sick and he was dying. And she grieved so strongly. And she said she had a huge concern that that was going to affect me and how I saw the world and my attitude in life. And unfortunately, I do have a tendency toward depression in this lifetime. So whether it has anything to do with that or not, I don't know specifically, but I know that was a concern of hers.
Wow, that's very interesting. I mean, and I think that like everything's connected and in ways a lot of times that we can't see. Thank you for bringing up Edgar Casey, because yeah, he's definitely was, one of the pioneers of all of this anyway.
Yes.
The whole movement and everything. But I feel like I've been hearing about, ancestral guilt or ancestral anxiety more recently now. It seems the new buzzword, but absolutely. I think especially, when your mom was pregnant and you were talking about that, that was sort of in her consciousness, it's almost like if you're walking outside and you're like, I don't want to fall, I don't want to fall, I don't want to fall. And then you fall, because you're like, so in some way there was some manifestation, obviously not on purpose on her part, to put that sort of maybe fear or, sadness sort of around you energetically. And so that makes perfect sense to me.
And ironically, she was trying to protect me.
Yeah.
She did not want me to be affected by her grief.
Yeah.
By thinking about it and being fearful that I would be affected, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Well, it's like, mothers or people that, like to over mother. Not that I know anybody like that. It's like my son will say to me, Mom, you love us too much, so it's that trying to protect them and trying to mother them. But at some point, it's like, it's not as helpful or beneficial to them because it's like, it sort of blocks them. Or like you said, she was trying to, okay, I don't want you to feel these feelings that I'm going to now think about 24/7, so that makes total sense, Judy. So thanks for bringing that up.
Thanks, Judy. I just want to add in here, another thing is we're more aware of information that people are bringing through from the Akashic records, which is tied to ancestral things, which, I mean, people are training to do Akashic record readings.
Yeah.
But part of that is about, understanding where we come from, but also understanding things that we may want to release, we may not want to change. So, and Mari, have you tapped into the Akashic records at all?
I have a little bit, yeah, and I have myself, and maybe for anybody that's not aware of it, maybe you want to give a little brief summary of what the Akashic records are.
Go ahead. Do you want to do that? Go ahead.
I mean, basically, it's just like your past lives that have been recorded. I'm certainly not an expert on Akashic records, but that have been sort of recorded energetically. They talk about them as the Akashic records for the other past lives that you have led and how they have a current effect on your life now. And absolutely, I mean, I've definitely done work on that myself. I've done clearings and healings like what you were talking about, because it doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing. Everybody has those cords and those connections to those past lives. And again, it's not a blame thing. It's just this happened and now, you're having sort of results from it, and it's important to be able to clear those things. Like if you in this lifetime are terrified of horses and you have no understanding why, because you've never had an incident with them, you might want to look back, either have an Akashic record reading or a past life reading and figure, well, what happened to me that now I'm terrified of horses and I've never had any incident with them, because there is that correlation.
Well, and if it's affected you in this time, in this life, it's coming up for a reason, for you to look at it and hopefully heal it if that's what you want, you can do and want to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm thinking our psychic senses can give us a nudge in that way, can't they?
Yes,
Let
absolutely.
us know it's coming up. I've got to move on. And well, gee, maybe this person feels right, or maybe this person feels right, or maybe this modality is what I need.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, if it's coming up now, it's because you have an opportunity to heal it. And some people say, well, yeah, but I've been working on this and I've been trying to heal it. And so it's hard. I mean, you know, we're all human. And so people will come to me and they'll be frustrated. I've been frustrated myself. Like, why is this not moving? Why is X, Y, and Z? I've been working on it and it's not moving. It's just because it's not the right time. You haven't found the right person. I mean, there's reasons why we're all going through this, but the fact is, if you recognize what it is that's going on and what you want to release, you're that much closer to ridding yourself of it, of that hindrance in a way, you know?
And being connected to your psychic senses can be very helpful, and you get finding a resolve for all of that. Connecting to spirit. I mean, they know what we need to do in this lifetime.
Absolutely.
They know how. So
And
awesome.
they're always leading us too. You know, they're always like those nudges. We started at the show.
Yeah.
We're talking about like, I have to do it. I have to do it. I mean, if you're getting those nudges, like I need to call this person, I need to do this thing, you know, listen to those. That is your intuition or your psychic senses.
Right.
They're trying to say like, hey, you know, let's move you along and find out what this next step is when you call the person or whatever action you're supposed to take, because that is being more open to spirit and, you know, evolving into your highest self.
Exactly. Linda's check and see. Megan, would you like to ask any questions?
I don't really think that I have any questions. I think one thing that notably stands out to me with my occupation and where I work, it is a very historic place. And I have had patients of mine stop me and let me know that I do have negative attachments to me. So I guess my question would be on ridding those or protecting myself with those.
Good topic.
Absolutely, could do a whole nother show on that.
Exactly. What would you like to just give her a little couple snippets of what that would be?
I mean, basically that people look at those issues in different ways. I mean, I feel like any attachments or any sort of negative attachments one has is really here, like we were just saying, to sort of help us learn and to help us grow. And there are sort of different modalities that you're sort of able to use as a process to sort of like cut the cords or, you know, get rid of the attachments to yourself. There's one that's called soul realignment therapy. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Pamela. There's a couple of them out there. That's the one that I'm the most familiar with. And it's like a process of connecting with a practitioner, and then they give you this thing to read, which when I first found out about it, I was like, I don't know about this. So I was sort of on the fence about it, but honestly, it is very helpful. So if you have any, you know, questions about that, you can feel free to reach out to me, Megan. And I'm not a practitioner. I have nothing to do with it, but somebody turned me onto it and I sort of investigated a little bit, and it's actually very cool. So there are people that can help you that sort of cut the cords and get rid of attachments. And the other part of it is just sort of like you were mentioning it, like being aware of it. So if you're feeling, you know, like, oh, you wake up fine and then all of a sudden you're in a bad mood, like, what is that about? Could it be this energetic bad mood that has been transferred to you that's not yours at all, that just could be coming from the past? So I think being aware of it is the first step, and then sort of protecting yourself, whether it's like putting yourself in a golden bubble or putting positive light and energy around you so that you feel like, okay, well, that is this negative energy from the past or wherever it's coming from. And then this is my own energy of the day, and keeping sort of that encapsulated. I mean, that's just sort of the short answer of that, but definitely knowing what's happening and then sort of protecting your energy so that you can stay in a positive state and, you know, and not be affected by this other past life stuff that's coming in.
We have a lot of that at work, all the way back to the Spanish War. All the way back to the Spanish War, and prior to that, we have catacombs. And then my office is actually right next to our national cemetery and headstones from the Spanish War till now.
Wow. Well, I would definitely say it would be important to sage your office. I don't know if you have any like black tourmaline or any type of crystals around, just to sort of ground the energy that's there. And just if you feel
Right here.
you got it covered, yeah, or hematite or anything like that. Just to sort of keep that out. And I don't believe in like evil energy, or I don't feel like there's anything like out to get you per se, but just to sort of keep the energy flowing and to keep everything moving. And because, yeah, obviously if you're in a place where it's got thousands upon thousands of souls that have passed through there, there's going to be stuff that's going to affect you that has nothing to do with you. And that's important to kind of keep that separation so that, you know, you're not taking home some of their energy from 300 years ago that has nothing to do with you, you know? So it's great that you're aware of it, because a lot of people wouldn't even think twice. They'd be like, ah, whatever, you know, but you're, you know, intuitive enough that you recognize that this can be an issue. And I sort of need to set up that boundary, that energetic personal boundary between them and me.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Awesome, Mari. And can I just add one other little tidbit here?
Yeah.
Is you're right, you're working right where you're supposed to be, because it's going to help you to awaken aspects of you that have been dormant, and that it's growth for you. Okay. Yes, at some point it'll be time for you to move on from there, but by that time you'll have learned this, that, and the other thing about yourself and about others. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, anybody else got a quick question? I know we're running a little bit, few minutes after, but I think we're okay. Are we okay for a few minutes here? Sarah, do you have something you want to type out here as a question or comment? Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can speak.
Hi,
Great.
Sarah.
Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. I apologize for staying in the dark. I'm not quite sure why I want to, but it's just
It's okay.
what I'm feeling.
It's fine. Dark is good.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so thank you so much for offering this. I saw it on Mari's Facebook, and it just fit in very well with where I'm at right now. I'm curious about mediumship. I don't think I want to be a medium, but you know, I've been on a journey of grief and longing for connection for a few years, and there's just a lot of doubt. Doubt is my jam. Doubt is my jam. But I've been speaking, you know, and I had Mara, you gave me an amazing reading, and you came up with a name, the name, and another medium came up with the name, and it's all very wonderful, and I still have my doubt. But oh, it's crazy. I want to know so badly. But anyway, recently somebody directed me to Tony Stockwell, and I had a reading with him, and he told me that I'm a medium. Which
Well, we love Tony. I'm Team Tony all the way. So
he's great. I loved him.
I loved him.
Yeah, but he told me that I'm a medium, and so I've been trying to learn about it a little bit, and you know, this is very new. I'm just starting to dabble, and I don't really have a feeling that I want to work as a medium, but boy, do I want to feel something. And I haven't done it yet, you know. I haven't, you know, I do meditate a little bit. Yeah, well, I meditate a lot actually, but it's that's all since the loss that I had a few years ago. So it's, you know, fairly new in the scheme of things. Anyway, that's, yeah, I don't know if you have any advice for me on feeling something that I know is not me.
Yes. Pamela, do you wanna?
I just want her to say to her, keep following her gut feeling, her intuition, and read, go listen to things, whatever you're drawn to. Like you were drawn to come for this, and this, from what I'm hearing, was positive and important for you. And you went and had a reading with Tony Stockwell. He gave you some information you were kind of surprised at, but really needed to hear too. Keep following that intuition, that gut feeling, and you will be clearly guided. Pray about it too, sweetheart. That's another big piece here.
Yeah.
Mari, anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think what I would say, Sarah, is that, you know, and I remember you, is that I think it's important. I think it's cool that Tony came through with that information about you being a medium, but I wouldn't take it so much as like pressure, like, oh no, now I've got to learn all this stuff and this has got to be my new life. It's just more, it feels like to me that for you to recognize, which I think you already know, is like, you're very sensitive, you know, you're very sensitive to a lot of this stuff, which is why I think it's hard for you to sort of take all of this in. So it's almost like you have the doubting mind on one side, but on the other hand, you have this like vast, you know, like I feel it in my chest when I connect to you, that those deep feelings and deep longings and so much like depth of soul and feelings that I get connected to you. And so, you know, when you put that together, it's almost like, well, you know, it's like your mind gets in the way, and that's why I keep stopping you from necessarily believing but I feel like your soul knows all this is true, and you know, you've had all these readings and you've had all this confirmation, so you know that it is true. But in terms of the mediumship piece, don't necessarily take that as like, that has to be my next step. You can just take it as, oh, this means that I'm open to everything and I'm very sensitive. And so that's why everything is harder for you. You know what I mean? It's in terms of your life, it's not, things will happen to some people and it'll, you know, roll off them like water off a duck's back, as they say. But for you, it's a little bit harder. And that's because you're so open to all of these things. And that's sort of what it feels like to me, what Tony's talking about that. I mean, I think if you wanted to be a medium, you could be, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's the direction you have to go. It's just an understanding you need to have. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel drawn to that kind of work, although I'm willing to be led.
Right.
And you know, if I have a gift, I'd love to use it to help people. But as yet, I'm not feeling the gift.
And, you know, and that's okay, but I know that you feel like the depth of emotion and the connection and like you feel all of that. So that's sort of like the opening, and, you know, we're talking about the door being cracked open a little bit. So that's, you know, that's the ability to sort of be open to it and sort of see what comes. And again, you don't have to do anything with it, but just to know that you have that ability to pick things up. So if you are walking in the supermarket, you know, and you hear something, you're like, oh, I wonder what that is. So it's sort of, it's making that a yes instead of a no, because we get hits all the time, intuitive psychic hits all the time. Everybody does.
Yeah.
But I'd say, you know, 80% of people just ignore it. They're like, oh yeah, whatever, that was a coincidence, or oh, that was nothing. Or so it's a matter of saying yes and saying, oh, okay, what was that? Or what was that sign, you know, that bird that flew kind of close to me? Or what was the repeating numbers? Or did I kind of hear that? So it's being able to say yes to that as opposed to saying no. And from the yeses, it's like you are opening up more and receiving more information. And then, you know, I think your path will become a little clearer. So I hope that helps.
It does help. Thank you, Mari. I've gotten as far as like
Awesome.
putting a question mark on it as opposed to a no, but I haven't gotten to it yet.
You know, like I always tell my clients, it's okay to be skeptical, but don't be cynical. So
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's another another thing too is important here. You have free will.
Right.
When we get messages that's coming from our guides, they're you know, they're trying to nudge us in directions, but we have free will. We can choose to do something or not choose it. And it's not about necessarily you being a professional medium, but like Mari's saying, you have those abilities. You are already super sensitive, and so that you are aware of how to take care of yourself through life. Yep. So Awesome.
Exactly.
Thank
Glad
you.
glad you spoke up, Sarah.
Yeah,
So-
me too. Me too. Thank you for talking. So nice to see you in the dark again.
Maybe
so-
next time I won't be camera shy.
Right,
No
right,
worries. No worries.
right. Is there anything else that we wanna share here, Mari? Is there a quick something that somebody wants to say who's listening to us talk here? Or Mari, you got something that you'd like to put in to help us close the go up, Judy, I see a finger.
I don't know, everyone here is so sensitive. I didn't know twice during this conversation. Boo he has been delighted, jumping, toenails clattering, panting, tail going, because it made him so excited, some of the subjects that were touched on. So,
Oh, nice. And
but
we're
he
both
really likes Pamela
communicators, so
anyway.
yeah, so that's probably why, because he's like saying, "Hi, I'm here."
Oh, yeah, well, he was, but he was really excited. Something you said got him really excited the first time, so.
Well, and maybe that clearly was important, that your beautiful plant that was in front of his picture had to be moved so that he could be part of our show here.
I didn't realize it was blocking him until you mentioned something about it, yeah.
Well, and it was almost like I think it was him. We want to make sure he was acknowledged. So it's like I got my beautiful picture here of my smiling
And he does
face.
smile, yes, he does.
Oh, thank you, Judy. Thank you. Mari, I want to thank you for being here this evening. I want to thank you for all your love, your knowledge, but also the presence of all those that work with you from the other side. Because you were sharing how you tend to look to the left. After you said that, I started watching you looking to the left. Says, okay, because I know from experience, once I'm step forward to be doing a show like this, or I'm doing a reading or a class, all of a sudden it's like I'm plugged right in, and it's like I'm sharing things, and you were doing the same thing. But thank you, Mari, and it's been very knowledgeable. It's been insightful. I want to say, even for myself as a medium, and I'm sure you've learned something too, Mari, from being here tonight.
Absolutely.
Yep. So everybody, once this is processed, I say it's got to be a process. We're on Zoom right now. I'm going to take this recording over to YouTube. It will be on my YouTube channel. And just for people to know, there are actually, I believe there's at least one other recording there of you, Mari. You've been done work before. I think it was more in regards to animal communication. That's my.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I will put this on my YouTube channel as well. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, they can find me on my website, mediummari.com.
Please. Yes.
And Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all the usual channels, but mediummari.com is the best way to get a hold of me. And yes, I just wanted to thank you, Pamela.
You're welcome. You're welcome, dear. Are there any events that you'd like to share? And I know a lot of people are doing events differently these days.
I am, yeah. I'm actually going to be on Voice America. I have an interview on there, which, God, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I think it's like April, it's pre-recorded. So I think it's like April 12th that it's going to be airing on Voice America. That's on my website. I'm going to be doing a day of mediumship with Genevieve Hackett and some other mediums. That's like an all-day thing. I believe that's May 16th. And I have a couple other podcasts that I've been invited on that I will be doing, and I'm not sure the publication date of those, but yeah, absolutely. And, I'll be starting up my mentorship again in the fall. People have been asking me about it. And as you know, it's just been a crazy time. All sorts of stuff have been going on. So I pushed off my mentorship, which I do in animal communication and psychic development. And I'm going to be starting that again in the fall as well. And I already have a couple people signed up for that. So yeah, so I'm sure I'll be adding more stuff as the summer.
And that can be all found on your website. I'm sure it's all there, but you also will have posts like throughout your Facebook page and over time and the other forms of social media too. So anyway, but wonderful. And I want to thank everyone who showed up. I want to say, you know, we have a small group, but it was a powerful group that we were able to still address some different topics that were important for not just our listening ears, for listening ears for other people who will see this here in the future. So anyway, but it's so next week I will be doing another show here, and that's going to be with the wonderful lady. Give me a minute. Charlene. It's going to be Spirit. The title is Spirit Loves All of Us. She's the lady who works with people who are unhoused, so to speak. And listen to some interesting stories. So anyway, but have a great day. Be safe, be well. I send you a big hug, Mari, from the distance here. Yeah. And hugs to everybody else. And you know, if you're searching for more of this, put it out there in prayer. It's going to come to you. Every single one of us listening right now is sensitive. Every single one of us has ways of connecting and receiving. And it's all about honoring that and just following through. But also remember, there's a lot of people that are hurting right now. So when you see somebody sad or blue, whatever, say hello to them, give them a smile, or simply say something, you know, a simple little prayer in your mind, asking that they be looked after and ask that they taken care and guided. So till next week, God bless everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Yes, good night. Good to meet you all. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes.